Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to My Left Ear. This is Carrie Freeman. It's January 20th, and My Left Ear, for anybody that's new, and there are some new people, welcome. This is a liberal political psychic commentary site. I had some humor, I had some stories, and good evidence, which you'll find out what that is, and quotes. So today's going to be a little different. I'm not doing runes today, but everything is going to be my left ear, and I'm going to give you feedback from my left ear. Now, for the new people, this is called my left ear because I get information through this side. Can't explain it. I don't hear voices, but it's like it tells me stuff. I might be on the phone with somebody and they'll say, oh, I'm afraid I'm going to get sued for blah, blah, blah. And I'll hear a sentence will go, no, you're not. So that's what my left ear is. So today is all my left ear. And when I'm not doing this, when I'm not doing my left ear, I call myself a change agent. I do private sessions with people locally and through Zoom. So I do psychic coaching, which is a special kind of intuitive coaching. And if you look at video 34, it'll explain it. I did a short video there. You can also contact me. And I also do therapeutic hypnosis. Now, when I'm doing therapeutic hypnosis, I spend a lot of time talking to clients and gathering information. And during those sessions, if my left ear comes in with advice, I share it. So it's not super exclusive, but I don't, how do I say this, advertise my psychic side with my therapeutic hypnosis side, if that makes any sense. All right, and this is for entertainment purposes only, and you'd be doing me a great service if you subscribed. I'm getting closer and closer, now moving up to 6,000, getting closer. All right, thank you. All right, so here we go. I would say that maybe this is a sample of my dark sense of humor, but I ran it by a friend and she said, oh my God, that's brilliant. So this is what I want to start with. The Donner Party. Now, it's possible someone watching does not know who the Donner Party was. Let me say 1846, United States. The Donner Party was a wagon train headed out west. I think they were headed to California in 1846. So it was a big party of families and animals and children, and they reached like a summit. Excuse me if I'm like not perfect on my details here. And one of the parties, which was headed up by someone else, went in one direction, and the Donner Party was advised, go in the same direction as those people. Don't take the shortcut. But the Donner Party didn't take that advice, didn't listen. And they got stuck in the middle of winter in the mountains, and some of them cannibalized each other. It's just the worst story in history. And Ken Burns, the brilliant documentarian, has a movie on this. It was pretty fascinating. And anyway, it hit me. The GOP is kind of turning into the Donner Party. Like they've not learned from their mistakes. They continue to not learn from their mistakes or advice, so they took this route, like the Donner Party. And now they're going to turn on each other, and they already starting to, and, metaphorically eat each other alive. The GOP and Kevin McCarthy, they do not listen. They have an agenda. It's a stupid agenda because their agenda is about losing in 2024. I mean, what? I've heard other people say this, but why do they think cutting Medicare and Social Security is going to get them the votes they want. I mean, really, who can explain? I wish a journalist would ask them, how do you think you're going to get these votes? All right. So anyway, metaphorically, they're eating each other alive. The Donner Party, the GOP is the new Donner Party. I actually tweeted this. If you see anybody using it, it came from me. I originated it. Now, I want to go on to the next thing. Why I know, my left ear knows, that there are indictments coming. There are. And here's the reason. Jumpin' Jack Flash, what I love to call him, Smith, this tough, single-minded attorney with special, going after war criminals and all this kind of stuff. The DOJ brought in, or Jack did, 2 new special prosecutors. Now, I don't have their names. It's not that important right now, but they both have the same extensive experience with mafia, crime, documents, intel, and laundering. There would be no reason why the DOJ, I repeat, would approve bringing on 2 new heavyweight prosecutors who basically, I heard, are leaving like huge paying jobs in their sectors. And that's why we know indictments are coming. You would not bring on these 2 new heavy hitters. And, everybody's up in arms about when, and I really think it's soon. Now, I'm going to jump to something that's not right in front of me, but soon, the first one, my left ear thinks, and other people agree, it's going to be Fulton County, Georgia. And FANI WILLIS is going to bring the charges, and that's going to be the first bomb, all right? So when that happens, then there'll be this cascade. It'll actually, FANI WILLIS appears to be fearless and determined about the law. And I think some of the scared weenie people, like even Merrick Garland, who I think is, I think he's honest, by the way. I don't think he's, dishonest but he's kind of a weenie. A little weak, it seems, probably much better as a judge than in anywhere near politics. But anyway, I know this is true. So we're just letting you know that there's not an if, there's a when, all right? Now, further to this, I hope this doesn't come out wrong, but I don't really check in with tarot readers anymore, because now that I started this, and I started it during the quarantine, it kind of messes with my perceptions, and I don't want to be influenced because I am suggestible. I'm actually a very good client for hypnotherapy because I'm very suggestible. But the one person I do check in with sometimes when I'm making breakfast is Milu, and I did appear on his show once, and that was fun. He and I tend to agree on a lot of things, so I'm just mentioning this, that my left ear had said to you that at some point, Jack Smith and his new guys, prosecutors, they happen to be 2 men, will begin to pick off each seditionist in the House and the Senate, and it'll be more and more, and there's a strong feeling he's really going to go after Marjorie, all right? And we have to acknowledge that there's stuff we don't know. I mean, we could watch the news all day long into the evening, and there's stuff we still don't know. It's just the way it works, and maybe we shouldn't know everything. All right. Oh, and I had put this on Twitter that this is how the House is going to change through Jack Smith picking off, Paul Gosar, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Biggs, all of these jerks. And then this changes the complexion of the House of Representatives. Well, I got a tweet from someone that I've been in touch with since I started Twitter. We've talked on the phone a few times. He lives up in Northern California. His name's Vinny. And Vinny wrote me immediately on Twitter and said, I also believe this, Carrie. This is how we get the House back. So, and Milu kind of indicated that today also. So I'm just sharing. Now, the Manhattan District Attorney, Alvin Bragg, has jump-started the Stormy Daniels hush money payments from the Trump organization before the election. So it would not interfere with him getting elected and maybe protect him from Melania's wrath. But I think it was probably more about, I'm going to run. I don't want this out there. So Alvin Bragg kind of let it chill. And he had two very accomplished attorneys that he brought in, but they got so frustrated they quit and left because he wouldn't move on the Stormy Daniels. But now he is. He's revisiting it again. And he's brought in Michael Cohen. And Michael Cohen, a few days ago, did a 2.5-hour meeting with all those attorneys in the DA's office, Manhattan DA's office. And the reason I think this happened is because the lawsuits, first of all, a judge just sanctioned, which means charged, I don't know if it means charged, but he sanctioned Trump and the female attorney almost $1 million for frivolous lawsuits. Now, I think that just slowed Trump down because he was suing New York DA Letitia James for some massive amount of money. I think like, $200 million or something. And he dropped it. He dropped it. So I think the sanctions are working. All right. So my left ear says, watch for fewer and fewer Trump lawsuits because of this. I wrote down, because it feels like I heard it, but I could be wrong, and I could be wrong sometimes, that it was like something crazy like $250 million, but he dropped it. So there you go. I'm just looking to see. So my left ear, and I told you Michael Cohen. I know Michael Cohen will testify. He knows more than anybody, and he was a part of the Stormy Daniels, and he paid, and he's turned into a completely different human being. Now, can just feel it, sense it, know it. And I want you to know Trump will lose the Stormy Daniels case. He will lose it, all right? But Bragg became more confident after the fraud charges against Trump organization worked. And he got to see that the Trump attorneys were very incompetent in trial, very. And so we're back with the Stormy Daniels, and Michael Cohen will be a great assist on that. Now I'm going to talk about one of the ugliest people on the planet, Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida, because he's really acting out. He's a fascist, and he's acting more and more openly like a fascist. These are my words. He's ruining and endangering Florida. Bigly. Florida education officials did not specify exactly what content the state found objectable, but said, as presented, the content of this course is inexplicably contrary to Florida law and significantly lacks educational value. Now, what did he do? He cut all studies, African studies, history of African Americans, slavery, from all high school curriculums. And evidently there were classes that were planned, and teachers now have canceled them because, of course, they don't want to get put in jail, fired abruptly. It's horrible. It's blaring racism. And here's the thing, and I'm not the only one. What's he thinking? Is he really thinking about running for president? I think he is. I think he's thinking about it. This is so unbelievable, so misguided. He's just giving our side a platform for winning. They get to talk about his racism, and they have things to back it up, the gerrymandering and this shutting down of education. Now I've got to go on because there's more, all right? He does not want to deal with COVID requirements, which means a lot more people might die. There very well may be another wave coming in from spreading from China. But he and his family are fully vaccinated. So he comes out and speaks publicly about the vaccinations, but he and his family, I just think, you know, he's amazing in the worst way. So here's the prediction, and I think it's common sense. I think it's logical. Florida will lose status in their school system and their universities, colleges. Their ratings will plummet. Teachers will become more and more scarce. Teachers will move out of state. They will have a hard time hiring really good professors for school. And the high school graduates are really going to graduate unprepared. So they may go out of state and they'll go to college and they won't know things. They might get a black roommate and just be so ignorant that it's impossible to comprehend. So they are really unprepared and they will be unprepared. I'm just stinking mad about it. Stinking mad about it. Florida librarians now are under siege. Governor Ron signed a bill that will intensify scrutiny of school library books and instructional materials. And the legal consequences to any librarian who does not comply could be criminal prosecution. Did you ever think you'd see like librarians and books like To Kill a Mockingbird and then they're prosecuted? I'm just reporting what's happening. Now, my left ear. DeSantis, he's unfit for president. He won't be our next president. His recent authoritarian rule, which is on steroids and racism, there's more to come, and it's going to keep him out. Now, on top of this, he doesn't have people skills. He has, you know, even Trump had some performance cachet where he entertained people, you know, as much as I think he's an idiot, and you can see that he had some kind of performative thing going. Well, Ron DeSantis has none of that. He's very poor at socializing. He doesn't make eye contact. He's actually reportedly very cold, very not personal. He has no charm for U.S. voters, zero. And people might not vote for Ron because of the way his wife dresses. Now, that's a joke, all right? But twice now, I've seen her dressed in public. The first time was like in the afternoon, and she was dressed like in gold lame gown. And I think it was him accepting his governorship win. And then recently, there was something else, and she's in this blue ensemble, baby blue, pretty blue, with like huge flowing panels, and huge and white gloves up to here. And I said, oh my God, when she was growing up, probably in high school and college, she was told, has anybody told you that you look like Jackie O? went to her pea brain, and she's a Jackie wannabe. Now, I put this on Twitter, and one of my friends privately sent me a private message and said, I had the exact same impression. All right. Such horrible news out of Moscow, Idaho, with the stabbing of the 4 students. Shocking, seemed to come out of the blue. Kudos to the police. They were criticized, and they brought it in. They brought it in just like they were supposed to, by not speaking, doing their work, and boom, there's the result. I want you to know, my left ear knew within the first 24 hours that this murder had to do with revenge and being rejected. And I still feel that. And now more is coming out. He went on Instagram and sent messages to 1 or 2 of these girls, never heard back. Now, someone who's kind of expert on Instagram said they may not have seen them, or they may have, and they didn't, you know, I block people sometimes who want to follow me, and I'm like, I don't think so. He's talking about God and too much for me. So he's rejected on Instagram. He visited the restaurants where several of them were servers over and over again. And there is a sense that he met them at parties. Now, I don't know if the parties were at their house or someplace else. What found out about him is that he was fat when he was in high school, as a boy and in high school. Saw pictures of him. Looks like a different person. Doesn't look like the same person. And I imagine he was bullied and rejected and criticized. And that he would lose this weight and sort of seemingly turn into somebody else is not shocking, because when I worked in rehab, and I worked with so many, well, I worked with criminals. I worked with just kids from rich families that got into dope and all kinds of stuff. But what I discovered after 8 years, and actually I discovered in the first 2 years, that every single person I sat with had big stories about something that happened to them around the age of 13 or in high school. And I think this guy fits that he went from being an outcast and now he's like lean and trim. And I think he, you know, like clearly he's disturbed, but I think there's something that comes out of him being fat earlier in his life. Then the other thing is that an animal hair was found in his apartment when they did a search. I mean, I think isn't it crazy that they find an animal hair? Just unbelievable, the CSI. And he doesn't have a dog. So they're going to do DNA on this and see if it matches the dog from the house, because the dog was not hurt. Beautiful, looks like a doodle. And if that matches, that puts him in that house. Amazing police work. Now, I don't know if you read this, but SCOTUS made an announcement, John Roberts, I guess, that they did a deep dive, about who leaked Roe v. Wade, and they couldn't find anybody. So this is what's insane. The investigation was done by someone who works for the Supreme Court, who does a lot of day in, day out grunt work for the Supreme Court. They gave her the job of investigating. However, they are her boss. They can fire her. They can give her a raise. And so she didn't bring any of the Supreme Court justices in for questioning. She did not bring any of their wives in for questioning, because Alito had a dinner party with his wife and just one other couple who were very pro-life, and they leaked to this couple, all right, that this was coming. It's not hard to imagine that this could have happened through the actual justices. So they didn't talk to Ginny Thomas either. I'm not suggesting that Ginny would have told the truth to this, employee? Well, I'm just going to tell you, this is bull pucky. I think they know. I think that letter went up. There was no legitimate, we couldn't find anybody. We don't know. And I'm calling it bullpucky, okay? And they still don't understand why the approval ratings just dropped for the Supreme Court. Okay, I covered that. I'm just looking at something because we're coming to the end here. Now, this was posted about 8 hours ago, and I had also heard it, that various countries have met, and they were discussing what kind of advanced machinery can they send Ukraine to fight. And they're doing it. Now, why they didn't do it months ago, I can't tell you. That's good news, because the Ukrainians have taken some really big hits, and that apartment building. And my hope is that someday there will be the people that have been assaulted, raped, and tortured. I'm just hoping there will be charges if they can possibly get to that, because the Russian army has been very criminal and brutal. Now, I said earlier, months ago, that the runes of my left ear thought by June, this was going to kind of wrap up. I checked in just with my ear today because I didn't do the runes. And the feeling is there's still a real chance for Ukraine to get resolved by the end of 23. And from being on Twitter, and no, I have not left Twitter. I'm now on Post also, but I'm staying with Twitter until they ask me for money, because I still find some things valuable, and I just delete the MAGAs and stuff. But the Ukrainian soldiers are posting every day on Twitter pictures of themselves, men and women, and just sending us messages, and thousands of people are hitting reply and sending them love and, you know, kudos and trying to fortify them. But what I want to say from just looking at the pictures of these brave, unbelievable Ukrainian people, there is a look. They are beautiful people. I mean, there's just you just look at them and there's this, they're beautiful people, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It radiates off of them. And I send them messages every day, telling how much I love them and admire them. But that's part of what gives me confidence. That's part of what, like, my left ear, they are never, ever giving up. Now, I'm going to share something with you this morning. Did no runes again. This has come in yesterday too. So I'm just going to mention it to you because it's popping. My left ear wonders if both Putin and Trump will expire this year. I can't predict it yet, but I'm telling you this question came in twice. That might weirdly happen. Now, I will tell you, it's been hard for me to see Trump actually running in 24 because I think he's in a big deterioration. People are starting to talk about his cognitive ability the last 3 days. And this was another thing that, you know, I'm aligned with Milu on. I hope he doesn't mind me talking about him. It's all positive. So we'll keep an eye out, okay? So now I'm coming to the end where I talk about good evidence. Last week I didn't, but I went down to my mailboxes last week in the pouring rain, and I ran into a neighbor of mine that has a very cute cat. Now, I don't have Petey today because he's in trouble. He's been giving me a hard time about something, but I can't go into it, so he's out on the porch right now. But anyway, she has a cat, and I gave her a compliment on her cat. And she said, oh, I have to see Petey. And I said, well, you want to come up right now? So she came upstairs and fell in love with Pete. And we got to talking, and she saw my book, The Comic's Daughter, the box, and said, are you a writer? And I went, yeah. She goes, do you want to be on my podcast? I've got an Apple podcast. I interview screenwriters and we talk about true crime. I said, well, that's really weird because I'm turning this into hopefully a Netflix series, like maybe an 8 or 9 part. And I'm starting the screenplay pages right now. I'm not nearly done, but I'm starting them. And I said, and there is a true crime story. Let me just grab the cover of the book for people who don't know about it. That's the book. A Chicago tale. And the true crime story happened in Chicago, and my family and I were embroiled in it. So I'm going to be doing this podcast at the end of February. Very excited about it. And then the other thing that happened was I got a text from 2 friends of mine, a married couple, that said, we're going to see Mean Girls at the Pantages Theater, and we have an extra ticket. You want to go? So I went to see Mean Girls Wednesday night, and I didn't actually think I would love it. And I can't say I loved it, but I really liked it. I really had a good time. And what I really appreciate about Mean Girls and Tina Fey, because she wrote it. She wrote the movie and she wrote the book for the musical, at which there's some really funny stuff in it, and there were great performers. But there's a big message in Mean Girls about being mean, bullying, and it's powerful. And I saw a lot of young women in that audience, and they were all hearing this. It was really going to make them think. So there's something beautiful about this musical, and especially right now because we're so steeped in being ugly. A lot of people being ugly. So that's that. All right, now we're quoting. We got to the quotes. We're at the end. This is by First Lady Rosalind Carter. I really liked it. She said, once you accept the fact that you're not perfect, then you develop some confidence. My interpretation is that you develop some confidence because you achieve self-acceptance. You don't expect something impossible of yourself. And I talk about how perfectionism is so dangerous with my clients, especially my hypnotherapy clients. And then I found a quote by a woman named Hannah Arendt, A-R-E-N-D-T. She lived from 1906 to 1975. She was a political philosopher, author, and Holocaust survivor. And she wrote a simple sentence: under conditions of tyranny, it is far easier to act than to think. I might send this to Merrick Garland. Okay, there we go. That's it. And I'm preparing another Patreon, and that will be the last Patreon for the runes. And then I'll let you know what I'm doing next. And for the new people, a lot of information is below about how to reach me and Patreon. Please take a look at Patreon. I'm trying to build it. I have a simple make a donation for $4 a month. And then I have the Patreon where I appear and I talk and I share special material. And people seem to like it. So that's it. I say, make it a good week. Hold the faith. Peace and blessings. And bye-bye. Bye-bye.